My kick-ass family gave me this sweet little induction cooker for my birthday not long ago. Obviously, one of the first things I thought is, can I use it for distilling? So I'm going to turn this thing on in just a second and see what happens. And I have a hunch that it may just help illustrate a couple of points that seem to get confused when it comes to how to heat your boiler and how to control that heat. Hey guys, welcome to Still It. I'm Jesse. This is the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. So if that's what you're into, if that's what you dig, have a look around and then hit the subscribe button down below if you want to see more content just like this. If you've been watching the channel for a little while, you've probably noticed that I really enjoy cooking. So you'd know that something like this is a pretty cool gift. It's really good for cooking. It cooks a sweet steak. So thanks a bunch to my family who hooked me up with this, especially to my mum. But being a distiller, the first thing I thought of was, how can I use this for distilling? One thing that came to mind was perhaps I could use it with my little mini Chinese pot still. I haven't actually used this thing yet because I don't have a heat source for it yet. I don't think it's going to be very worthwhile to actually create spirits as a spirit run with this thing, but I have had a few tips that it could be very good with some really good neutral put in there and a few goodies to make some gin. In any case, I want to fire this thing up. It's just water in there now, so don't worry, there's probably going to be steam pouring out all over the place. But let's bang the induction cooker on and see what happens. So I have about 4 liters of water in here, and you're about to figure out, if you don't know already, why these things are so freaking kick-ass for cooking. This water started out as tap water, and it's been on here for about 20 seconds, and it's already lukewarm. That's crazy. The idea of having a compact, all-in-one system like this that you can adjust and put on manual power is very attractive for a distiller. Unfortunately, I think there's a reason that this is going to fail the test as a heat source for this, and I'm going to tell you about it right now because I get a funny feeling by the time I finish telling you about it, it's going to be doing it already. It's getting hot. Well, yeah, that's like 60 degrees already. It's nuts. Alright guys, so I think that this is going to power cycle. Basically what I mean by that is if you put it on 100% power, the thing is going to be on 100% of the time, like you would expect. If, however, you put it on 50% power, it is going to turn on for maybe a second, then turn off for a second, turn on for a second, off for a second, and of course if you put it on, lower power settings, the on time gets shorter and shorter, and the off time gets longer and longer. When you're cooking pasta or something like that, it doesn't really matter if you put it on 50% and it's on for a second, off for a second, on for a second, off for a second, because the thermal mass of the pot is going to help out a little bit, the thermal mass of the water is going to help out a little bit, but at the end of the day it doesn't really matter if you get a stronger simmer and then a weaker simmer. With distilling, however, this is a problem. And the problem's a little bit different depending on whether you're talking about a pot still or whether you're talking about a reflux still. For a reflux still, the fractioning that occurs in the column itself is actually quite a delicate process, and pushing vapor up through the column really fast and then easing that pressure off a little bit, pushing it and then easing off is going to mess with that delicate fractioning that's going to happen naturally within your column. The natural fractioning that happens in that column is the reason that you have a reflux column in the first place, so anything that messes that up is a no-go. For a pot still, on the other hand, I guess there's 2 reasons that you could say that it's really bad. One is if you're running a fine line with your condenser in terms of how much energy you can knock down, that fluctuating power could actually push up and past the condenser's ability to knock the vapor down, and you could get vapor escaping from the end of the spout, which you guys should know by now is a really bad thing. You don't want that to happen, you lose booze, and it's dangerous. Not cool. The second thing is that you really want to be able to control the speed of the vapor that's coming off the still, and that is the way that you control your output, especially for a pot still. So I've been talking now for, I don't know, I'm guessing like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and this is like about to boil. Let me show you. God damn, that's fast. It's so cool. For a bigger surface area pot like this, from cold to boiling like that, yeah, it's cool. I think these things are pretty fun. But actually, what I'm going to do in the meantime is pop the lid on and see what this still looks like with vapor coming out of it, just because I can. So with the top off, we can see that this thing is going pretty flat out right now. Let's turn the power down and see what happens. So as you can see, guys, this is cycling, and it does seem to have a pretty long cycle at that. So for the reasons we talked about before, it's not going to be ideal for something like this. And part of the reason I wanted to do this video was to talk about that, but I also wanted to talk about the idea of controlling temperature versus vapor speed. This question gets asked a lot on forums, Reddit, Facebook, everywhere you see new distillers hanging out and getting sweet information from those of you with good experience. I myself fell into the same trap when I was new, and I was asking the same questions, expecting different answers when I asked them again and again. Here's the deal, guys. Basically, what we're doing is taking advantage of the fact that the chemicals we want in the boiler boil or vaporize at a lower temperature than those that we generally don't want. So what happens is, as we heat the liquid up, it'll reach its boiling point, and those chemicals will come off through the still and over into our collections jars on the other side. As those chemicals boil off, the percentage of those chemicals in the boiler obviously drops, changing the chemical components or the chemical mix-up of the liquid in the boiler, and thus changing the temperature that it will boil at. Now, I know that is a weird thing to think about, but think of it this way. What temperature does water boil at? If you're sane and you use metric, that's an easy answer, 100 degrees. I'm kidding, guys, I'm just messing with you. But you get my point, right? Like, everyone knows that heating water more and more isn't going to heat the water up more. All it's going to do is make the water evaporate faster. So it's the kind of the same thing. It's just that the boiling point of the liquid that we're heating is going to sort of fluctuate depending on what you put in the boiler to start with, how hard you've been running it, and how long it's been running for. So the short answer to the question of what temperature should I run my still at is basically don't, or it depends if you want to get technical about it. What you do want to do is control the speed of the offtake on the still, and that you can control. Once again, we're talking about how much of the liquid in the pot is vaporized and then condensed on the other side, and it takes energy to get that liquid to change state. So the more energy you put in, the faster it's going to change, the more vapor's coming off, and you're going to be filling your jars on the other side at a quicker rate. So the next question people inevitably ask are the thermometers on the top of a still head worth having at all if you're not going to control the temperature? And the answer is yes. You're not necessarily aiming for a certain number on the dial, but the number on the dial does give you a whole lot of valuable information about what's going on and potentially how you could adjust. I'm not going to get into that now because it's complicated and we don't have enough time right now. But super quickly, I guess you can think of that temperature in the same way that you would think of your ABV, in that if you want a purer spirit than what you have right now, whether you're looking at the temperature or at the ABV, you run slower, and if you want to go quicker or you're not worried about having such a high ABV or you actually want a lower ABV, you can run faster. So for some people that are hearing this for the first time, it's probably going to click with them straight away. For some people, it's not. And trust me, I was one of those people that took a while to get this into my head. I like to think of myself as a relatively educated and smart person. I guess it's one of those things, maybe I was a little bit stubborn, maybe it just took me a little bit of time to get my head around it. But the funny thing is, it is definitely one of those things that once you get it into your head, you can't figure out how it was anything but blatantly obvious in the first place. So for the new guys out there asking questions and getting grumpy answers from the experts, keep in mind that some of this stuff is infuriatingly simple once you get the hang of it. That's not to insult you in any way. I'm just saying it really is sometimes hard to see it from the other side. And for the guys that are experienced, try to remember what it was like when you first got into this, before you'd done anything before, and remember that us newbies are catching up. So all of this begs the question, how should you control an electric boiler? And right now I'm going to suggest two things. The first up is an SSR, which I know people are going to say, but it cycles. Yep, it cycles at like 60 hertz if you want it to, or 50 hertz. Honestly, I don't know where the cutoff point of whether or not it's going to be a problem sits, but it would take some convincing. I'm open to it, but it would take some convincing to convince me that's going to be a problem. The other one, which is probably more simple and more accessible to a lot of people, is an SCR, which is essentially a voltage regulator, so the power is not sort of cycling on and off. While we're on the topic, you want to look out for simostats, thermostats, and anything else that cycles. I know it's a lot of information, guys, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask down below. I'll try and help you out, and I know there's a whole lot of other people around here that will too. For those of you that have been asking, yes, the UJ SSM is going awesome. It's just a little bit repetitive right now. When I get to something that you haven't seen already, you will be seeing another video, I promise you. And yes, I have done the draw for the competition. I just haven't been able to get the video up yet. I'm thinking I'll try and get those results out for you next week, guys. Anyway, thanks a lot, team. Catch you next week. See ya.